In this section, we'll be factoring trinomials. First of all, we should technically always look for a greatest common factor. A lot of times it's 1, so we won't bother factoring it out. But if it's anything else, we'll factor that out. Then we'll multiply a times c. Now, all of these will be in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Some of them may use a different letter for instead of the x's, but it'll be in that form. If it's not in that order, we'll rearrange it first. So greatest common factor, if you look at all three terms, you might at first glance think 5, but then when you look at the 27, you realize 5 doesn't work. So the greatest common factor is 1. Now the a is 5 and the c is 10. So 5 times 10 will give us 50. So think about your factors of 50. Ways to multiply and get 50. First of all, you have 1 times 50. Then you have 2 times 25. Then you have 5 times 10. So those are the ways we can multiply whole numbers and get 50. We're looking for a pair of factors that adds up to the b. So when we add up these numbers, 1 plus 50 is 51. 2 plus 25 is 27. We're trying to add up to the b, which is 27. So 2 and 25 is our pair of factors that multiply to get 50 and add to get 27. So what we're going to do now is split the middle. So we still have 5x squared, and we still have the 10. But instead of the 27x, we're going to split it into 2x plus 25x. Now we're ready to do grouping. I'll use the box method in this video, but you can use, there are other ways to factor by grouping. All right, so box method will find the greatest common factor of the top row, which is x. Greatest common factor of the bottom row, which is 5. Do 5x squared divided by x, you get 5x. Make sure it works for the bottom row. 5x times 5 is 25x. 2x divided by x is 2. Make sure it works for the bottom row. 2 times 5 is 10. So we have our factoring, and then we'll just list our answer using parentheses around the factors. So final answer here, x plus 5 times 5x plus 2. You can check it by distributing twice, or you could do the box method. Greatest common factor, when you look at all three of these terms, you see 4 as a greatest common factor. So divide each term by 4. 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared. 24x divided by 4 is 6x. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 1 times c gives us, or 1 times 8 gives us 8. That's the 8. That's the a times c. Factors of 8, how can we multiply and get 8? 1 times 8, 2 times 4. We want the pair that adds up to 6, so 2 plus 4 is 6. So we'll split the middle term. So we still have the 4 in front. Then we have x squared plus 2x plus 4. And then we still have the plus 8. Looking at what's in parentheses, we'll fill it in. X squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 8. Greatest common factor of the top row is x. Greatest common factor of the bottom row is 4. Now we'll divide them each. X squared divided by x gives us x. Check it for the bottom row. X times 4 is 4x. 2x divided by x is 2. Check the bottom row. 2 times 4 is 8. So now we're ready to write our final answer. Still have the 4 in front, and then we have factors of x plus 4, x plus 2. So do GCF. If you have one, that'll make your numbers smaller, easier to work with. Greatest common factor here is 1. A times C, 24 times 3 is 72. Looking at factors of 72, we're looking for the pair that adds up to negative 22. Now, if this sign is positive, then they're both going to be the same sign. If they're the same and they add up to a negative, then they're both negative. So when we consider our factors of 72, they're both going to be negative. Ways to multiply and get 72, negative 1 and negative 72, negative 2 and negative 36, negative 3, negative 24, negative 4, negative 18, negative 6 and 12, and negative 8 and negative 9. We're looking for the pair that adds up to negative 2, or negative 22, excuse me. So the pair that adds up to negative 22 is going to be negative 4 and negative 18. First term stays the same. Split the middle term into negative 4x, negative 18x. And then last one is 3. We'll fill it into the box. 24x squared minus 4x minus 18x plus 3. Greatest common factor of the top row is 4x. Greatest common factor of the bottom row is 3. 24x squared divided by 4x is 6x. If you check it for the bottom row, 6x times 3 is 18x. So instead we need this bottom to be negative. Negative 4x divided by positive 4x is negative 1. Check it for the bottom row, negative 1 times negative 3 is 3. So we do have the correct factoring there. Now we'll list out our two factors. So we'll have 4x minus 3 and 6x minus 1. This one's not in standard form, so let's rearrange it real quick. 3x squared minus 11x minus 20. Greatest common factor is 1. Now multiply a times c. 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to get negative 60. And so if they're multiplying and getting a negative, then they're going to be different signs. And we want the pair that adds up to negative 11. So if they're multiplying and getting a negative, they're different signs. If they're adding and getting a negative, then the bigger one has to be negative. Or the greater absolute value, I should say. We're looking for the pair that adds up to negative 11. So this is it. So we'll split our middle. So we'll have 3x squared plus 4x minus 15x minus 20. Actually, I think it'll work a little bit nicer with our box and everything if we put the negative first. So let's put negative 15x plus 4x. All right, fill in your box. Greatest common factor of the top row is 3x. Greatest common factor of the bottom row is 4. 3x squared divided by 3x is x. Check it for the bottom row, x times 4 is 4x. Negative 15x divided by 3x is negative 5. Check it for the bottom row, negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. So now we'll list our two factors. Three x plus 4 and x minus 5. GCF here is 1, multiply a times c, 3 times negative 5, negative 15. Looking for factors of negative 15, so if they're multiplying and getting a negative, there's one positive, one negative, and then they add to get 7. So the bigger one needs to be positive. So you can say negative 1 and 15, that would multiply and get negative 15, or negative 3 and 5. Now when you add these up, add these two together, you get 14. Add these two, you get 2. We've exhausted all of our options, and they don't add up to 7. So we can say not factorable or prime. Prime polynomials are polynomials that do not factor. This one, we have an equation. We're going to solve it by factoring, so we're going to do all these steps, and then at the very end, we'll set our factors equal to 0 and solve that. GCF of the left-hand side of the equation would be 1. Do a times c, 3 times 8 is 24. We need two numbers that multiply to get 24 and add to get negative 10. So let's list out our factors of 24. If we're multiplying and getting a positive, that means same signs. And then if we're adding them and getting a negative, they'll both be negative. So negative 1, negative 24. Negative 2, negative 12, negative 3, negative 8, and negative 4, negative 10. Negative 4, negative 6. We're looking for the pair that adds up to negative 10, so that's the negative 4, negative 6. So split your middle into negative 4x, negative 6x. Left-hand side, we'll use the box sign. Once you have 4 terms, you can do that. Greatest common factor at the top row is x. Greatest common factor at the bottom row is 2. 3x squared divided by x is 3. Check it for the bottom, 3x. Check it for the bottom row. 3x times 2 is negative 6x. I mean, it is positive 6x, but it needs to be negative. So let's change that to negative 2, and now it works. Negative 4x divided by x is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. So it works for the bottom row. So we have the factoring for the left side. Let's put it all together in the equation. So now we have x minus 2, and the other factor, 3x minus 4 equals. So that product equals 0, so set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So we have x minus 2 equals 0, or 3x minus 4 equals 0. To get rid of minus 2, add 2. To get rid of minus 4, add 4. So we have 3x equals 4, and then to get rid of multiplying by 3, we'll divide by 3. And so you get 4/3, or you could write 1 1/3. So two solutions, either 2 or 4/3. Hope you've enjoyed this video. There are other ones I've made where you don't use the box method, so it's your choice what you would prefer.